You missed your audition to play Ariel.
I know. I'm pissed.
I missed my audition to play Ursula.
Or King Triton. Daddy, I love him.
Ariel. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Ride Home Podcast. My name is Abby.
Hey, guys, it's Caitlin.
My name's the Lunch Lady. I apologize for my voice this week. I don't know what happened to me. I got sick last week, and it's not going away.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my voice.
This is it.
Ursula stole my voice.
Yes, and gave you hers.
Yeah. I do. I sound like I'm a sea witch. So here I am.
Here you are.
I feel like it's been 18 years since we recorded an episode. It's only been 2 weeks, but I feel like it's been...
How? It feels like it's been 2 years.
I have no idea. It feels like this is a new season.
It feels like this is our first episode we've ever done.
I will say, though, that this episode really does kick off like the summer movies, though.
Mm-hmm.
So I am very excited to be back, and we have a lot of really fun episodes coming up. But this one is a review of the new live action The Little Mermaid.
Mm-hmm.
I think because everybody, well, not everybody, there are some people who do live under rocks, but most people know the story of Little Mermaid.
Yes.
So we are not going to do a spoiler, no spoiler section. This is just going to be a fully open episode.
Mm-hmm.
This movie does have a couple of small like changes and additions to it, so just a basic warning to people: if you don't want to know what the changes are, we are going to talk about them. This movie was directed by Rob Marshall, who has done a couple of musical movies before. He did Chicago and he did Into the Woods.
Okay.
He also did Mary Poppins Returns.
Okay.
So he's a little bit famous for some like musical adaptations, for sure. Could you give us a brief little cast list? I think we can skip the synopsis because everyone knows what happens.
We should all
in The
know
Little
what
Mermaid.
happens in The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
This cast is a little bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
We've got some heavy hitters and we've got some newcomers, fresh faces, if you will. And of course, we have the famous new casting for Ariel, which is Halle Bailey. She really has not acted before, as far as I know.
I don't think so, but she is going to be in The Color Purple coming up. In the new Color Purple.
So she's just getting into it.
Yeah, she's starting to fill up her IMDb card.
She is.
Funny enough, we actually saw her and her sister live. They opened for Beyonce when we saw Beyonce and Jay-Z in concert, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
That now, like, we've seen Ariel
We
live
have.
in
We've seen
person.
Ariel live. Yes. Also starring Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. Javier Bardem as King Triton. For the voice of Scuttle, we have Awkwafina, who has been in so many movies lately.
A strange choice.
And what an interesting choice.
I wonder who made that decision. Who was like, Scuttle should definitely be Awkwafina.
I don't know, but that was just something else.
Something to be seen.
Something to be seen and heard.
I'm very hit or miss on Awkwafina. I think that she has a ton of potential. We've seen her in some really good things, but she also just is a conundrum to me. She is very, and this was part of the conundrum.
Yeah.
We'll put it this way.
Yeah. I would say she's hit or miss, like you said.
Yeah.
And I think this unfortunately might be one of her misses.
Yeah.
We're sorry, Awkwafina. All right. And this also stars Daveed Diggs voicing Sebastian and Jacob Tremblay as Flounder.
Jacob Tremblay is famous for his role in Room with Brie Larson, which is an incredible movie. He still has a little boy voice in this movie because they recorded it like 2 or 3 years ago. But have you seen interviews with him recently?
He's like a grown man.
He's like 16 and his like little voice is cracking, but like it's so crazy to see him growing up. He kind of looks like Timothy Chalamet a little bit
a
now.
little bit.
So it's kind of nice to see him like listed again on something. I haven't seen him in a bit.
I know, we missed him. And then as Prince Eric, we have Jonah Howard King.
who's kind of a newcomer.
A little bit new.
He played Laurie in a like TV series of Little Women, which like of course he did.
Yeah, he is Laurie.
He also a little bit looks like there's a really old adaptation of Anne of Green Gables, and he looks like the guy who plays Gilbert Blythe.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
He looks kind of like him, and also looks like the lead singer of Bastille.
He looks exactly like him.
And also kind of sings exactly
Sounds like him too. Yeah.
But this movie had a little bit of controversy, I would say. And it's not that like the movie itself was controversial, but a lot of people were up in arms over the casting of Ariel for some reason. I don't know how you can be upset about the race of a mermaid, but apparently you can be.
I was going to say, when you said for some reason, I think
we know
the reason is just we're
a
little racist.
Yeah.
We've got some low-key racism going on there. Because why can't she?
Yeah. I remember seeing right whenever her casting came out, and I don't know if it was like a trailer or something, but there was like a comment that was pinned to the top of a page that was this whole like dissertation on why a mermaid wouldn't have melanin because they're not in the sun, and so their melanin wouldn't be exposed to the sun.
Lord.
It was the most ridiculous thing I think I've ever read in my life. And people were like, yes, this guy gets it. And other people were like, it's a Scandinavian tale, so there wouldn't be a black woman in Scandinavia. And it's just the most obnoxious thing I've ever seen. And I think the only criticism that I will agree with is that I do wish they made her hair a little bit more red. It was kind of like a muted tone, and I think she could have easily pulled off like a darker red,
definitely,
just as like a more iconic look. But being upset over a casting choice kind of shows a little bit of your true colors, if that makes sense. If you're really upset about it, you need to look inward of why you're upset about that.
Yeah. They actually did a really good job of making it make sense.
Yeah, they did.
Without it being like a race thing. It was just like, hey, King Triton fucks. And like he's basically like procreated with a woman from every sea in the world. And so all of his daughters are different race.
Yeah.
And I thought that was actually really cool because obviously in the original animation they're all white.
Yeah.
Everyone in the movie is white. So I thought it was actually a really cool way of bringing some diversity to it.
They truly didn't need to give an explanation. I think it's so ridiculous that people even cared, but it really did feel like a natural part of the story that he has these 7 daughters that represent the 7 seas. And I thought it was really cool. I thought that was a really nice change.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you. We can talk a little bit more about some of the other changes that they made from the original to this one. The biggest change was that it was 45 minutes longer than the original, which we can also get into that a little bit more. But as always, I want to start out with your first opinions. What are your thoughts on the live adaptation of The Little Mermaid?
I liked it.
Okay.
I think it's one of the better live action remakes
that Disney has
done. I will say better than Aladdin.
Oh my god, Aladdin was
horrible. Maybe better than Beauty and the Beast.
I liked Beauty and the Beast.
Or like as good as Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
But overall I thought it was pretty successful. It was a really fun watch, and I think you and I did talk about this, seeing it kind of like on opening night with a room full of children, kind of, you said it brought perspective that it's a children's movie, and I thought, I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much if there weren't a bunch of kids in the movie theater, because I feel like it would have just been like, what's happening? Why am I watching this?
It also made me extremely thankful that we don't have children.
Dude.
The comings and goings of children in a movie theater, which by the way, when we left the theater,
oh my god,
the disaster that was left behind, I was so embarrassed to be a part of that theater.
Yes.
Why are you letting your kids throw popcorn everywhere?
And dump it all over the place.
Dump it on the floor. Every single row was just popcorn, like large amounts of popcorn.
And candy. Someone
and
had like a cookie sandwich. Like it was like 2 cookies with icing in the middle just left on the armrest of a chair. I'm like, pick that up.
That's disgusting.
Heathens.
Like I understand that like people don't carry like a broom with them. I understand that. But also like if you have a popcorn bag, you could just like brush everything in the bag and then throw it away. It was obnoxious.
That's the worst thing. Like, that was the worst mess I've ever seen in a movie theater. Like, I understand things happen, kids spill things and drop things, whatever, but this was like beyond just like a few kids spilling.
It was like heathens.
It was like, were we having a food fight and I missed it?
It was
like,
funny. It was like every single time too that like a song would end and there was a scene of dialogue, 45 people would stand up and go to the bathroom. And it was like this, like, I think you in the middle of the movie leaned over and you're like, this is like Grand Central Station. Right?
Yes. It was just like, what is happening?
It was so chaotic. But I agree with you that seeing it on opening night with a bunch of families, we were literally pinned in between two young families. And I think we were the only like adults there that didn't have children with us. And I think I agree that it gave a lot of perspective, where there were some things that they added to this movie that I didn't necessarily love. And a lot of it was written comedy for the characters of Flounder, Scuttle, and Sebastian, who were kind of like the comedic relief as a trio. And a lot of the jokes fell incredibly flat for me. And I think if we saw it without a bunch of kids around, you and I might have legitimately hated this movie. But because we were surrounded by little kids laughing at it, it was like, oh, okay, like this movie isn't for us, and that's okay. And they did have some modern jokes. Like at one point, Scuttle literally says, yes. And the kids loved it. So it like hit with the kids. I thought it was stupid and horrible and just a train wreck. I thought the script in general was a train wreck.
The script was a train wreck.
But because we saw it with kids, I think we both were able to have a little bit of a looser tolerance for everything and let those horrific moments let them breathe a little bit and give them some space.
I think
to be okay.
I think it helped us not take it so seriously.
For sure.
Sometimes I feel like it's easy to take live action more serious because it's not animated and it's real people. I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like it's almost like our natural instinct is to think it's more serious because it's real people and it's not animated. It's not cartoons. But I agree. I mean, just like there was the stupidest, corniest jokes, and like a little kid would be like, hey, and like we would crack up because the kid was laughing. So I think that did help a lot. Because I agree. I think if we just saw this like with a room full of adults, like we probably would have been like, wow, this is stupid.
This is terrible. Yeah. And I think too, a lot of the animation fell really flat. Like the scenes where they are fully underwater, which I did a tiny bit of research. They filmed this dry for wet. So basically she was in a contraption that made her look like she was floating, but she was on like a blue screen set. And so she was never fully in the water, except for the scenes where she's like on the surface, like on the beach.
Makes sense.
And most of the movie, you can tell that it is her face on an animated body. And it was very strange. And there were some shots where like she would be swimming away quickly and her whole face was distorted. And I was like, how did that pass inspection? How did they say, yep, signing off on that? It was really bad. And I think, again, because we had the kids in there, some of those issues that I had visually, I was able to like quiet my own mind, because even like the very first shot, it was just a shot of like waves crashing, and this little kid next to us goes, big water. And I was like, here's the thing, I might look at this and think this animation is terrible, and the way they're putting her face on this animated mermaid body is really awkward for me. But for them, they're like, holy fuck, it's a mermaid.
Like it looks like a real mermaid.
It looks like a real person to them. And I think that having those kids around us with their little comments, because kids can't sit in silence. Anytime there was like a little moment of silence in the movie, you would always hear like a little comment from a kid. But it allowed us to just relax and enjoy the experience, even if it was a little chaotic.
Yes.
It was a little distracting.
It was.
But I think it all worked out.
It did. It definitely did. I think when you were talking about the animation, something also that I noticed about this movie that I think kind of was a miss for me is how colorless it was. Like you mentioned a little muted. You mentioned about her hair, but I felt like all of the scenes underwater were very dull as far as color goes. We did a rewatch of the original Little Mermaid, and obviously it's colorful because it's a cartoon and it's animated, and but I just feel like there was so much more vibrancy in the original that was lacking very much in the live action.
I agree with you. And you know what was also lacking? An underwater kingdom. There was no kingdom.
No.
So in the cartoon, when you first get introduced to the mermaids, it's this shot following a fish that makes his way all the way to Triton's castle. And in the movie, Triton's castle doesn't exist.
No.
And there's just this like meeting point where there's like 7 seats for all the daughters and then 1 throne for him. And it was really dark and dim. And I'm just gonna say it too. I think Javier Bardem was the worst casting choice in the entire film.
Okay,
maybe more than Awkwafina. And the darkness of Triton's, it felt like a lair. It didn't even feel like a throne room. It felt like his lair.
Right.
And his performance of Triton and his delivery on all of his lines, he was like an abusive father in this movie, and like menacing and terrifying. And in the cartoon, he's certainly like a stern father who is, it seems like he's at his wit's end almost with Ariel, where it's like she's always late, she's always messing around with human stuff, she's always getting into trouble, and he just doesn't know what to do, and it reaches this point where he breaks all of her stuff. In this movie, when he breaks her stuff, I'm like, this is abuse. Like, it felt really terrifying.
I think in the cartoon version, even though he is a stern father and he does pretty much the same things that Javier Bardem does as Triton, he still loves her, and you can still tell that they have that like father-daughter, like stereotypical father-daughter relationship. And he has a little bit of softness to him, and a little bit of playfulness, and like a little bit of loving, like father, like doting father kind of vibes. And Javier Bardem is like stone cold.
There's nothing sweet or soft.
He's not soft. He's not loving. Like he's just like, hello, Ariel, I am your father.
It was so intense,
and it was just so like stoic and serious, and
even like all of the sisters, like none of them like spoke really. They kind of did like small lines, but they were very serious and stoic, and they were talking about this weird celebration of the coral moon that they never actually fully explained what that meant. Like they were like, we have all come together for the coral moon,
and then nothing ever even happened.
Nothing ever happened with the coral moon.
They just referenced it a few times. The moon looked kind of pink, and that was about it.
That's about it. And Javier Bardem, again, was just such a menacing figure that it was hard to root for the mer people, because it felt like they had no familial bond or connection or culture. And so it's like, of course Ariel wants to leave.
Right.
Like, of course she doesn't want to be a part of this. It seems really fucking boring.
Yeah, I was going to say, even in the live action, we really don't see a community.
No.
We just see Triton and his daughters, and all of his daughters, like, they're beautiful and everything, but they just look like supermodels. Like, they look like soulless, they're just staring, pretty women that just sit there and don't do anything. Like, they just kind of look into space. And in the cartoon, it's like you said, like a very vibrant community. They all gather and have a concert, and it's like this robust, like cultured community. None of that existed in this world. It just felt very isolated. It felt very desolate.
Yeah.
And it was just sort of like, it's not even like pretty down here. No. Like, it's just like, we saw like a coral reef.
They made it too realistic. Like, they made the ocean too realistic.
What's the documentary? Like,
oh, Planet Earth.
Yeah. I was like, is this Planet Earth? Like, that's what it started out. And it was like, that's what it felt like.
Yeah. I think part of the reason why the world felt so flat also was they treated the audience like we were incredibly stupid.
Yes.
And instead of showing us the world through color and culture and music and all of these aspects that are in the original, they over-explained everything. And it got to the point where, especially Ursula's scenes, which, like, Melissa McCarthy, I thought did like a very serviceable job as Ursula. I thought she was fine. Like, I don't really have any complaints. I mean, she didn't really add anything new to it, but I thought she was a very passable Ursula.
Sure.
But her scripting was so bad because they cut out her collecting the souls of the mermaids. They had to make up this whole convoluted plan about how she was going to get to Triton through Ariel. And it never made sense.
No.
But she explained it constantly. It was like, well, first I'll trap Ariel, and then I'll bring Triton to the thing, and then I'll sacrifice Triton, and then Triton will be mine, and then I'll have Triton. And it was like, I was getting lost. Whereas when you're watching the original, you're just like, oh, she's a fucked up witch who captures people,
gets souls. Yeah.
And because she didn't have that garden of souls or whatever it's called with like the weird ghost people that float around, which I can admit, I don't know how you would do that live.
No.
But she could have had like a prison.
Sure.
Like, she could have had like captured mer people who are all like
withering away or
by
something.
her. Yeah. They could have done something with that and not have it be this whole weird plot that she has that was over explained but somehow not even explained at all.
And also, like, her motive was basically like sibling rivalry.
Yeah.
Like, it was like her motive was not to collect souls and like ruin like the mer people. It was just like, well, my brother got to be the king of the seas and I'm the sea witch and I just want to be the king of the seas.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, like you said, they over explained things and like made something way more complicated and convoluted than it needed to be.
Well, and they did that multiple times. So like they did it with Ursula, they did it with the Coral Moon.
Yes.
They did it with Eric was somehow adopted in this one.
Yeah.
And that made no sense.
None.
And another plot point that they added in and then proceeded to over explain was that she has to kiss him by sunset on the third day, but she doesn't know she has to kiss him because Ursula also gives her amnesia.
And so Sebastian and Scuttle are charged with reminding her of the kiss. So instead of just having the song Kiss the Girl, we had like this whole 30-minute explanation of how Sebastian was going to orchestrate them kissing in time for the sun. It was just too much over explaining of everything.
Just trim the fat, guys. Like, it really didn't need to be all that explained.
No.
I will say that there are only two things that they added to this that I think were good additions.
Okay.
Which is they gave us a little bit more time with Eric and Ariel. And so we got to see them actually create a bond together. There was a really cute moment where she teaches him her name because they're like pointing up in the stars and she like points at Aries and he's like, oh, your name's like Aries. And she pulls down on his lip so that it creates Ariel. Ariel. I thought it was a really cute moment.
Yeah.
And I think the other addition that they added, which I really enjoyed, was Ariel's character had a little bit more intention behind her and she felt like more of a person and less of just this like starstruck little girl who falls in love with the prince.
Yeah, they made her less of like
damsel in distress.
Yeah, like she was more independent and not afraid of things and kind of stood up for herself more than just in the original when she just goes, Daddy, I love him.
Daddy, I love him.
However, I did miss that line.
I was kind of hoping they had that line in there.
But I figured like she calls him Daddy a lot in the original one. And I feel like culturally now we can't really use that in the same way. I did kind of miss it, and I just kept hearing it in my head the whole time. But yeah, she was the hero, which was cool.
Yeah. I personally, and I don't know if this is controversial or not, I don't know if you'll agree with me.
Okay.
I didn't love Eric.
No.
I didn't love the actor who played Eric. I didn't really think he was that handsome, and I don't want to be mean, but like Eric was him. Eric in the
talking
90s.
About cartoon Eric.
Oh, yeah.
Cartoon Eric, he is him.
He is the Disney prince.
Yes.
I don't think there is a girl who grew up in the 90s who didn't have a crush on him. I mean, like, what a stud.
Truly. And the real Eric, like the real person Eric in the live action, he's not ugly.
No, he's not.
But like as soon as he was on screen, I thought in my head, that's no cartoon Eric.
No, absolutely not.
Because like, I'm sorry, cartoon Eric can get it.
Yeah. Still can.
Still, he could and he can. And he will. But it's just like, that's a very hard standard to live up to.
It is.
Because I feel like, so the original Little Mermaid came out in 1989 before either of us were even born.
Right.
So by the time we saw it, we were probably like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say with full confidence that was the most attractive person I
had ever seen.
Yeah, and had seen for like a long time after that. So like, he's on a pedestal in our minds, and so I think really like there's no real person who could live up to that standard.
Which, interestingly enough, the original casting of live action Eric was Harry Styles,
which is crazy.
Which I cannot picture him.
Not at all.
Ariel.
And he's beautiful, but still, it's not cartoon Eric.
It's not cartoon Eric. They did add a song for Eric, which was atrocious.
It was really bad.
I don't know why they did that, because there's no real reason for him to have a song.
And he didn't need a ballad.
I don't know who wrote the ballad, if it was who I think it was.
Are we going to go there? We're going to talk about it?
We're going to talk about it.
This is He Who Shall Not Be Named in our house.
We hope we do not offend anyone when we say this right now. But in this household, there is an enemy. And his name is Lin Manuel Miranda.
Yes, he's enemy number 1.
He is enemy number 1. We do not understand why he is so popular. And the second I hear a Lin Manuel Miranda song, I know it. I can sniff it out. And there is a song in this movie that Scuttle/Aquafina raps called Scuttlebutt.
Yes, first of all. Yes.
And it is the worst thing that I have ever heard in my entire life. Worse than Eric's song.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Significantly
1,000 times worse than Eric's song. Eric's song is just this like cheesy ballad, and he's just looking off into the distance while he sings it. Scuttle raps. And it's like this horrific Hamilton style. Clearly Lin Manuel had his little grubby paws on this movie.
Yes.
Why is Disney so obsessed with him? Leave him alone.
He needs to sit down.
He needs to go in a corner and think about somewhere. What he's done.
Yes.
I cannot understand why people love him and his work so much. And also, when somebody that untalented writes their own musicals just so that they can star in it, immediately no.
That's the thing for me. It's his ego.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but like all of his rap style songs,
it's so bad.
It's so one note. Like you said, as soon as Aquafina started rapping, you looked at me and you were like, did who I think wrote this write this? And I was like, it has to be. Like, you can tell from a mile away, and that's what I mean. Like, it's so unoriginal.
You could replace the lyrics from Hamilton in Scuttlebutt, and you could replace the lyrics in Scuttlebutt in the Moana rap that Maui does. Yeah. It's the same cadence. It's the same
phrasing. Same. It's just,
oh my God. And I really don't understand why they felt the need to add that. Again, Scuttle doesn't need a song. Prince Eric didn't need a song.
No. I will say that if you feel the same way we do about Lin Manuel Miranda, I will highly encourage you to read the Daily Beast article about Awkwafina's rap. The title of the article is Awkwafina's horrific Little Mermaid rap will ruin your weekend. And the subtitle is Poor Unfortunate Ears.
Yes.
And
it roasts Lin Manuel in the article. It roasts
him
too.
So bad. And it's a really funny article.
Yeah,
so I have to give a shout out because it's really funny and it's extremely like on par with how we feel about it. Yeah, I think those addition of those very subpar songs, which I did look it up, Lin Manuel wrote the lyrics for the Wild Uncharted Waters song.
Of course he did.
Alan Menken composed it, which composing wise, like it's a fine song.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah.
But he did write the lyrics for it.
Of course he did.
And it makes sense. It's very atrocious. It's very melodramatic and just overdone.
On a positive note. Because I feel like we've hit all of the negatives.
For sure.
On a positive note, Halle Bailey is great in this movie. And I think every choice that they made with her was a great addition to this live action version. And I gotta say, I was really, really impressed with her voice.
Yes.
Very impressed with her voice.
I was too. I was blown away.
I had a couple of issues, and I know I talked to you about this with... I felt like they changed the tempo of some of the songs. Like, Part of Your World felt very slow to me. And it was like she wanted the orchestra to like move faster. Obviously, that wasn't her fault.
Sure.
But what she did sing was maybe better than the original.
Yeah.
Can I say it?
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Her vocals were much better than Jodie Benson. That's her name, right?
Yeah.
The original Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Halle Bailey's voice brought such a depth and warmth that was missing. And I think the orchestra in the live action was just a lot more developed than it was in the 90s version.
I love a horn, and they added some French horn.
There was a lot of horns. There was a lot of sweeping strings that it just sounded, honestly, to me, like they just had more players than there were on the original soundtrack. Those changes to the music side really complimented her voice well.
Yeah.
Because there were two moments that we both kind of looked at each other like wide-eyed, like holding on to our seats, because I had goosebumps and tears in my eyes.
Yeah.
As soon as I heard her belt and I heard the way she phrased it was just even more emotional. I just feel like it's just a better vocal.
Yeah.
It's just a better vocal all around.
I think I would listen to this version before I would listen to the original.
Yeah.
If I was just like in the car and I wanted to listen to it. It was really impressive. I gotta say, she really brought the heat with it. And not only was she a great singer, which obviously we know she has a musical background. She's from a band with her sister. But I really did think that she was a great actress.
I thought so too.
She embodied Ariel in a really new and fresh way. And if anybody is hating on her because she's black and is just immediately dismissing this movie because she's black, again, you need to look inside yourself and wonder why that's bothering you so much, because there's no good reason for why that's bothering you.
Yeah, there's nothing to be bothered about.
Yeah. And I think there is something to be said about having young black girls being able to see this movie, see themselves in a Disney princess, and see themselves in a Disney princess that wasn't
someone they could identify with before.
Right. Because, you know, we have Tiana, I think, from, that's her name, from Princess and the Frog, which she's written as a black character.
Sure.
But for them to see a character that was always white for 30 plus years to now be represented and look like them, I think it was such a beautiful thing. And there were so many black girls like in the theater with us, and I loved that they were able to see that on screen.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just happy that Halle gave such a great performance, because now it doesn't give those negative voices any more reason to chirp. So everybody can be quiet now.
Yeah, everyone can just sit down and shut up and listen to Halle Bailey.
Yeah. So I know we both think that this is worth a watch, but what is your popcorn score?
My popcorn score, I'm going to go a solid medium. It is not a large.
No.
Halle Bailey is a large popcorn, but everything else, the movie as a whole, is a medium.
I'm also going to give it a medium. There were parts of it that I certainly very much disliked, and a lot of it was that additional stuff. And I will say that parents should be aware and warned that it is a 2 hour and 15-minute movie.
Yes.
It's really long, and with trailers included, don't show up on time for this movie.
I was going to say, you're looking at sitting in the theaters for at least 3 hours.
3 hours. There were a lot of transient children in the theater. It was really hard for them to sit still.
Passers-by.
All the iPad kids who have the attention span of 10 minutes are going to really struggle with this. So I just need any parents to know that,
be mindful of that.
Be very mindful of that, and be prepared for them to need breaks and to have a lot of patience, because my God, I even was getting a little like antsy in my seat. It is way too long.
I will say, I don't know that we need to keep doing this though, but I already know we're going to.
What do they even have left?
I don't know. We haven't seen Mulan.
They didn't even put music in that, which is an absolute tragedy.
That's why we haven't seen it.
I refuse.
Yeah, because of Mulan.
Because Mulan
is, so
is my favorite soundtrack, period. Hunchback of Notre Dame is pretty.
I was going to say, hold on now.
Wait, I would sign up for a Hunchback live action.
The casting would have to be very specific on that, I feel. Okay, we're going to have to
penny for your thoughts. Rated R.
Oh my God.
Hunchback of Notre Dame. Oh, okay. I'm in. Okay. I'm in it.
Sign you up.
I want to see Esmeralda, baby.
Of course you do.
That does it for us. Again, I apologize for my voice and if I'm a little bit rambly in this episode, because
you've been taking a lot of Sudafed.
I am on drugs. I am on so many cough syrups and Sudafeds, and it's just been a routine of medicine just pumped into my body. But I hope you'll join us next time, which is actually this week. We're releasing 2 episodes this week. So
crazy.
Coming this Friday, we are going to do a review of the new Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which one of our friends actually worked on this. One of our friends from college was an animator on this movie.
I didn't know that.
Vito Ferber.
Oh my God, no way. That's so cool.
So very excited to see it. We both absolutely adore the first one. And we've been hearing some really good buzz about this one. So our next episode will be this Friday, June 2nd. And I hope until then you have a fantastic week. We'll see you then.
Thanks for joining us on the ride home.